got recognized this last week at ISM with an Outstanding Leader Award for both IT and Health and Human Services. It's a Jerry Friedman Award for outstanding service. And, you know, on behalf of the project, and I know the board members would like to do that, we say congratulations to our JPA board chair, Michael Sylvester. I think we have a picture here that we could bring up to be able to just show everybody. A great picture. I think that was on Tuesday that this was taken, and well-deserved, well-earned, and we just feel very fortunate for you to be our chair, Michael, and congratulate you on being recognized for the work you do.
Thank you, John. You weren't supposed to say anything. Yeah, I was incredibly humbled and honored. Jerry Friedman was just a legend in human services, and to be recognized in an award named after him, I feel very privileged to be part of CalSAWS, to be the chair, to be involved the last 20 years on this kind of coming to fruition, and also being able to work with some of the greatest county service, the human services people there are in the country. I'm especially proud to be part of LA County, but also to be a part of the greater human services team in California. So thank you all. I appreciate it. I was not wanting that to be mentioned, but I forgot to say don't mention it. So I guess it's free. It's up for grabs then.
Just another one of those things, Michael, where we don't ask for permission, we just do it.
That's how we get everything done, right? Well, thank you very much, John, and thanks to the team. This journey has been really, really something special in my life, and it's been because of all of you. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael. We appreciate that. All right, just going through real quick, our state ex officio member, our director of OTSI, Adam Dondro, is here in the room. Marla, our vice chair, is here in the room, and Region 1 representative. On Zoom, Kelly Curtis from Region 1 is on as well. In the room here, Greg Geisler from Placer County is here in the room. Region 3, Becky wasn't able to make it today, so Region 3 does not have a representative. Region 4, Chris Woods is here in the room representing Region 4. Francina Martinez was not able to make it today. Region 5, Ramos is here in the room with us today. Region 5, our newest JPA board member, the director for Imperial County, Paula Yanis, is here in the room with us today, and we welcome you. And also from Region 5, Antran from Orange County is here. On the phone or on Zoom, Kristen Stranger's on, of course yourself, Michael, and the alternate for LA County DCFS Region 6, Rogelio, is on. So we have confirmed quorum to start the meeting.
Right, thank you, John. Call the meeting to order. This would be the time for any public comment on items not posted on the agenda. Okay, hearing none, I'll do a quick review. Our agenda has 2 specific board action items, 6 consent items, and 11 informational items. That should take the better part of our time, and we'll hopefully end on time for you guys today. So, John, I think we can dive into our action items.
Yep, sounds good. I think our first one, agenda item 4, approval of FSED governance members. So I will dust off the memory banks of many of our directors on this. All the way back in 2017, the CARES project, CWDA worked together to say, you know what, this is going to be very important, these 2 projects, both CARES and now CalSAWS, working and coordinating together very closely and having some type of, governance coordination process at an executive level between the 2 projects. And sort of working through that and having really regional executive subject matter experts that can be able to look at that. We have created that structure. It's only met a couple of times before in the past, and now that the CARES project has a project schedule, it's time, and the work's getting underway between CalSAWS and CARES on the design, and working between our different project teams. We've identified the need to start to get into a regular cadence of those executive meetings, briefings, possibly some decisions as we're rolling forward, and at least initially have a regular monthly meeting where we touch base and really exercise that process. So as we started looking at the need to be able to do that, we identified that there's some vacancies in the governance committee. If you remember back last time that the JPA board took action, it was approving Deborah Bates to serve on the committee. Deborah has since retired, and the JPA needs to fill that role. Fortunately, a newer director, Charity Douglas, the director of Riverside County Department of Public Social Services, who has a background in both child welfare as well as eligibility, has agreed to serve in that role for the directors. So now that that work's underway, we wanted to bring Charity as a volunteer, sort of being able to fill in that. And just a note, Deborah Martinez, who is a former JPA board member from Madera County, is also a director on this governance committee, and she is the co-chair. And the other executive members include Lori Medina from Monterey, as well as Cynthia McCoy Miller, our board member from LA County DCFS. So we wanted to bring this forward to see if the board would move and approve Charity serving in this role on behalf of the counties. So this is open for question or board action, Michael.
Thank you, John. I wholeheartedly support Charity in this capacity. I think she'll do a wonderful job for us, but I do want to open it up if there's any other comments or input from our board members or our state partners. Okay, hearing none. Any public comment? Okay, again, hearing none, then I'll make a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
On is seconding here in the room. Marla, do you approve?
Yes.
Kelly, do you approve?
Yes.
Thank you. Greg? Yes. Excellent. Chris?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Thank you. And Rogelio?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Motion approved. All right. That brings us to our next action item, and this is approval of a Gainwell Central Print Amendment 2, and we've been talking about this for a little bit of time. This has gone through state and federal approval. Part of this includes additional print services, but probably the thing that we talked about with you all last was facility management services and our move of our project location. We're shutting down the Rancho Cordova facility and moving out to Roseville. And there's some additional county purchases, trying to package it all into this one amendment as we go forward, and some premise and administrative updates. Holly, can you come on and we'll go to the next slide, and you could give our board an overview of what's going on.
You bet. Thanks, John. Well, as you mentioned, the first component of this is we have rebaselined our print services estimates to account for increased impression counts. That's due to caseload growth. We've revised volume counts for our Cowan counties as they've migrated over to CalSAWS, and we've had some new forms that were identified. So that's the first category of change here that was accounted for in our last IAPDU. And so now we just want to bring that into the contract. Next, as John mentioned, our facilities in Rancho, the leases will end in October. So we did determine the Roseville facility was our most cost-effective and viable option for our Northern California needs. So we've included those costs and the scope in this amendment for the base contract term, effective as of January, continuing through February. And then we do need to build in additional change notice allowance. We've had several premise items in the last year. We've been leveraging optional print allowance, but we need to expand that, and also looking to account for county purchases due to various special print jobs specific to the county, such as the return mail or very special flyers that sometimes come up. So we need to expand the allowance for that. And those are separately funded outside of the CalSAWS IAPDU. Our last category of change is administrative in nature. You'll recall that we did exercise the option for Contra Costa and Tulare to leverage the CalSAWS Central Print Services. That was a prior board action item. So we just wanted to take the opportunity at this time, since we're amending the contract, to provide that update language, consolidate our price schedule, because those are no longer optional in the contract. So this basically conforms to that action item the board took. We also want to take this opportunity to incorporate some administrative updates to our SLAs. As part of we have a maintenance and operations services plan deliverable where we document our processes and procedures for managing our SLAs. And with that deliverable, we incorporated some clarifications to language that helps us better enforce those performance requirements. There's no changes to the intent of the SLAs. As an example, we spelled out a numerator and denominator for calculating the percentage just to make it very clear. We updated some cosmetic updates. We updated headers in the attachment. We previously had an RFP attachment name, but it really needed to refer to the contract exhibit title. So some cleanup there as well. This memorializes those changes for that exhibit. And then on our next slide, we included a summary of the cost. So the overall total increase is 7.6 million. The first two variances you see in the table equate to the combined total of about 33 million. That's tied to the increased volume, additional forms. The next two changes for the premise change and the county purchase, that's right around 41 million. That's offset by that last row where we had an allowance for optional print. So, and then the last, the 3.3 million of the 76.7 million is for facilities. So that concludes the overview, and I will turn it back to Michael for questions.
Okay, thanks for that explanation, Holly. A quick question on the facilities. It was mentioned facilities management, I think, is how it's listed in there. And I know that there's going to be a move from Rancho Cordova to Roseville, and then I believe a reduction down in the Southern California one to a very small subset of what LA County ends up leasing in that same facility. So is the item that's included in here, is that for the one-time cost of the move, or is that actually to recalibrate the ongoing costs?
So great question. For the Gainwell Amendment 2, that is the ongoing services monthly fees for the space and other services that go along with it. There's security in there, there's housekeeping in there. There is upcoming some one-time updates as part of the consent item for Accenture to do a bit of work on the network and the move from Rancho to Roseville. But this amendment is the ongoing allowance for that.
Okay, and the moves are anticipated to be fairly seamless in terms of the project impact or anything to do with the rest of the schedule, right?
Right, there's no impact on the D&I schedule or release schedule, maintenance release schedule or anything like that. We have been planning and working through those details. We have some milestones laid out. We've got some soft launches coming up. We've got expanded network coming up. So no impact otherwise.
Okay, great. I want to open up to our board members and state partners for any questions or comments this time. Okay, hearing none. Any public comment? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Marla approved? Moved?
I'll second.
All right, and Chris?
Thank you, Laura.
Marla. All right. Kelly, do you approve?
Yes.
Thank you. Greg? Excellent. Gilbert?
Yes.
Great. Paula? Thank you. On?
Yes.
Great. Kristen?
Yes.
Thank you. Michael?
Yes.
Excellent. Rogelio?
Yes.
Great. All right, that brings us to our consent calendar. First one is our minutes from our August 25th meeting. I think we had one action item due today. That's an overview of sort of the benefits cal testing support process that we have. It's action item 6. I think Kristen brought this up at the last meeting. We said we'd come back with that. So that is on the agenda today. So hopefully we'll work through that and close that out. All of the other due dates are either for November or a later date. So those are the minutes. Item B, approval of the agreement between CalSAWS Consortium and Eide Bailey, which includes services to perform the annual financial and single audit of CalSAWS. As the auditor controller for the consortium, the JPA, San Bernardino Auditor Controller ran that procurement with us. We've been bringing you up to date on that agreement. So that agreement has been procured, it's been reviewed, and it's before the JPA board. The total contract value is a little bit over $250,000, and are for fiscal years ending June 30th, 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27. A reminder, this is funded through the CalSAWS JPA administrative budget, and that the current year costs are accounted for in the project budget as we move forward. So that's open for board consideration as well. Approval of Accenture Change in Orders 28, which includes premise items that were coming out of the most recent budget, some county purchases that we have as we go forward, as well as what Holly mentioned, the one-time move for our application development facility. And these items as well are accounted for in our 23-24 budget that the JPA membership has approved. Next item is approval of ClearBest Change Order Number 7, Work Order 4, which includes quality assurance services related to M&O for the period of November 1st through January 31st, 2024. Really, this is an administrative change. This is in our contract with ClearBest. M&O services were not supposed to start until 2024. We're on schedule. We're working through that. We want to make sure that what's said in the contract and the services being provided by ClearBest align to the contract, and it syncs up with the contract as we go forward. So the work order will utilize about $920,000 of the change budget services, and we'll be working through that. We're also, in parallel, have worked on an extension of the ClearBest contract for optional years that are available within their contract. We're going through state review, federal approval for that. And that is going to, we anticipate, be coming back to the board at a future meeting once we get state and federal approval to be able to do that. And again, those are already bid, approved, and what we have budgeted for. We will be coming back for that. This is more of an administrative change and sync up on that. Then we also have another Clear Best change order number 7, work order 5, which includes 3 premise items. It syncs up. We keep on doing these items to be able to have QA services that sync up with these items that are before you for Accenture. And then we have approval of Deloitte Calwin ISS change order number 4, which includes additional post-implementation support hours, and these were offset by the reduction in training facilities. So training facilities were available for us to get through the project for the Calwin counties. The Calwin counties used a lot of their own training facilities. We're using those dollars that weren't used to be able to have even more post-implementation support resources and make sure that they're out in the counties to continue to give that service to the counties as they transition over. And then it was incorporating some county purchases by the former Calwin counties to be able to assist them in that transition as we go forward. So that's a lot. It's a big consent calendar, but now it's open for board comment, questions, or to move the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you, John. I got just a couple questions on the on C. Accenture change notice 28. It mentions including reimbursement for food benefit theft automation. Is there somebody that can kind of give a little bit more context to that change?
Can you give a little bit of context to that?
Yes, there's a couple things in there, Michael. We have some additional correspondence to put in the system. I believe there's some integration with Benefits Cal in that change, so the form can be submitted. But if you give me a minute, I can give a fuller update when we go through the release and policy updates.
Okay, that's fine. We can pick it up there. And then on the work registration, CalFresh disqualification notice, is that related to ABOD?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Okay. Okay. Then, John, just a question on the last one, F, for Deloitte Calwin ISS change order 4. So is that essentially going to give us more implementation support services time?
Yeah, we've already done that as we've looked at how we're staffing each one of the waves going forward and looking at what resources are available and looking at that. We've already, tapped all of our budgets from all of our vendors to say, what resources do you have, as well as we've tapped you all to say, what resources do you have to be able to help each other out through that? So, yes, it's providing services that truthfully are already taking place in Wave 5 and in Wave 6 as we go forward.
Okay, great. I just wanted the Calwin counties to know that that's what that's for. It's for them.
Yep.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments from our board members or our state partners on any of the 6 consent items, Slate? Okay, I'm not seeing any in chat or hearing any, so any public comment? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve the whole slate?
Greg has moved here in the room. And Gilbert has seconded it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Gilbert.
Right. Marla, do you approve?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
You, Chris?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Thank you. On?
Yes.
Thank you. Kristen?
Yes.
Thanks. Michael?
Yes.
And Rogelio?
Yes.
Thank you so much. That completes our action items, and we are on to our informational items. And if you haven't heard, we are live with 55. Yay. All right, let's go to our next slide. and turn it over to Arnold.
All right, normally you would see Sean and Leslie here, but they are busy preparing for this weekend's upcoming conversion, which I'll be talking about a little bit later. So I will just give it a synopsis of what happened with 5B. As many of you know, we actually ended up coming up 25 hours later. We were intending to come up before 6 a.m. Monday morning, which was Labor Day, and we ended up coming at 6:24 a.m. on Tuesday. The reason being is we actually ended up running the conversion twice. The first time that we ran through it, we identified an issue through our controls where we had omitted about 500,000 applications, ease, child support, and non-compliance records. We looked at various options on how we could bring those missing records in the least impactful way, and we determined the lowest risk was restart the conversion because we knew exactly what went wrong, and we were able to fix that, reset the environment, restart the conversion, and that allowed us to come up at 6:24 Tuesday morning. So my apologies to the 3 counties. I know Monday was supposed to be a light day when you were going to have caseworkers in and going through the system and coming to clear. So for that, I'm truly sorry that this occurred. When we trace back to what actually happened, one of the prerequisites for each of these ways is that we set up default caseworkers for each of the county offices. Because what happens is, through the conversion, CalSOS has to have that worker linkage for those cases that are coming in. And so what happened was, that was the process that did not run successfully prior to this conversion and led us to omitting those 500,000 workers because they dropped out because the conversion process saw there was no caseworker assignment on it, and that's how it ended in the exception process. So in recovery for the weekend, we actually applied the process that was supposed to be run on August 24th that updated those records. And we verified that, and that's how that became our starting point for the conversion, which we were then able to run through successfully and come up by 24th Tuesday morning. What we've done in retro is there are additional controls and validation checks that we've already added to our Wave 6 conversion event. We have also run that process to create those default offices and worker assignments in our mock conversion for 6B. So we have successfully seen 6B run with that, and we have also seen 6B run within the 84-hour window. So if we move on to the next slide, I'll ask Rachel from QA to join us and talk about the additional controls that have been implemented.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Rachel. I'm sorry. I thought I was presenting. Go ahead.
Oh. All right. Sorry, Dan. Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Hernandez. You can see Dan is up there, and it's Wendy Bowerman, who are our QA executives. I'm with Service QA. And what I'm covering today is the existing checkpoints that we actually do have and participate from a QA perspective, from a consortia perspective, as well as our counterpart Accenture. On the left-hand side, what I'd like to highlight is what pre-conversion checks we do. We do a project plan table read where we review who is assigned to the task as well as the task individually. We do a pre-flight checklist where we look at, what does the conversion code look like? What are we going in with? What's the source data? What are the communications and milestones that we have scheduled for this? As part of this, actually, we did validate that particular SDR was tested, was validated, communications all pointed to the being deployed. Moving on to conversion, we have additional checks to do tier reviews. We validate at the table level. Here are the tables that are supposed to be converted. We validate the row counts, and here are the expectations of what should be in those tables. At this point in time, it's just at the table level. We then go to stage gate review. So this is a progression of those conversion activities. At these stage gate reviews, this is where the data is being transformed, being created into applications, people, cases, et cetera. It was at this point in time that the teams identified, hey, we have, and we see a variance that we do not expect, and we're able to identify the culprit and pivot appropriately. I'd like to direct your attention to the right-hand side, which is exactly the same thing, but we do have some enhancements that we've incorporated and talked through as teams. And specifically under the pre-flight checklist area, we're doing earlier deployment and validation of this worker assignment change request that we know is critical and is used by the conversion. It's actually a functional change, but we use it as part of the conversion. Second, over-the-shoulder production validation. We're taking it a step further, not only validating that the change made it in, but in production, doing some over-the-shoulder validation with our Accenture counterpart. And last but not least, we did some extensive and expanded our analysis on the SBRs, did some analysis against Wave 6 to determine, are there any other SBRs that fall under this category? We were able to confirm that this is the one that fell into this particular category. We did identify a couple other SBRs, but those are very specific and county specific, and they're typically ones that we validate during the conversion process because the data needs to be transformed and then we apply the change. But we've done due diligence to incorporate a little bit more into the to the checks and balances that we already have in place and are pretty extensive with that. So that concludes my summary of this, and unless anybody has any questions.
I have a question, Yvonne. I just wanted to better understand this because the first 3 waves were really smooth, except for some capacity volume issues. And wave 4 and wave 5, we started experiencing some issues. I was wondering what really changed, or were we just lucky? And now we're finally building processes in place that should have been built in the first 3 waves.
I will address a little bit of that, and then invite others to incorporate. The checklists have been there. They have been there. Specifically to wave 5, this was a nuanced situation in which we did all the checks and balances. Manual process that somehow just didn't make it all the way to that particular specific SDR being deployed. But otherwise, these checks and balances, we've been enhancing and incorporating them, hence why everything's been kind of running as expected. We did, of course, experience this specific one in wave 5 where we did validate what was supposed to happen. It was more of a hidden situation where we didn't see it until the stage gate process, which is downstream of the conversion overall process, which is one of the reasons we do have these multiple checks and balances, because we want to be able to catch them before we actually turn over the.
So Rachel, let me jump in, and I'm going to ask Arnold to jump in, because I think Alan's question is a very valid question. I would say, and I'll narrow your question a little bit to say the conversion weekend. The conversion weekend and some of the prior weekend and the prior waves was pretty much like clockwork. We were coming in and out and sort of looking at timings and things like that. But we had a closed case conversion that we had to cancel and find another weekend. And then on our last conversion on wave 5, we needed to take an extra day, and thankfully that was a holiday. And I think our board members are stating, I expected it to get smoother as we get later in these waves. Now, from a functional standpoint and a user experience post-conversion, it has gotten smoother as we've gotten later because we've been able to do those things. But on the conversion weekend, there has been some bumps, and I think people have expected that those would go smoother. So I'm glad that we have those things addressed so that wave 6 is going to be our smoother conversion experience. But Arnold, maybe you can talk about the uniqueness of what took place and address Alan's question on that.
Right. On waves 1 through 4, that DCR had actually been run ahead of the schedule, and it was scheduled to run on wave 5, And there's actually, what happened was a failure in an automated process to make sure that that was run. And that's where we're actually focusing a lot more of our time, is understanding why that failure in the automated process ran, and then additionally confirming the post-validation of that actually running. Because theoretically you run it, then there's validation that the records are there, and that process broke down specifically for that one database update to add those. We didn't encounter that on waves 1 through 4 because we had already worked with the counties, we had the values, they were running at 9. On wave 5, that's really the only issue that we ran into this entire weekend. The only challenge was it set us up for losing 500,000 records. And so the rest of the process has actually been running very smooth over these conversion weekends, but it does go to show that additional diligence is required, because what's happening is the conversion process is different, because we're still doing major releases every 2 months. There's still policy that's being implemented. It's resulting in changes being made to both CalWIN and CalPlan. And so we're consistently having to keep that conversion process up to date as well. That did not play a role in this, just from the perspective of through our mock runs, which are the practice runs, we run through the full conversion process in order to identify these so the weekends are smoother opportunities or do run smoothly. So from that perspective, looking at what did work through the weekend versus what had the issue on 5B specifically, we have a solid process with controls, with sufficient oversight to have a successful conversion. And we believe that's going to be the case with 6B as well. And that also gave us the confidence to say we can get 5B done with the extra day. Luckily, there was Labor Day there, a non-working holiday for the counties that we were able to use as a contingency. And the process ran smoothly, and I think the results of the last 2 weeks have shown that it was a quality effort.
And on anything else that you want to follow up on that? Okay, thank you. And Michael's hands up?
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge and thank the project for making sure that even though we hit this bump in the road, you were able to reset the rest of the schedule and still mitigate impact to our operations. That was a big deal for us in LA County to be able to come up when we started to work Tuesday morning. That being said, we know we don't have that holiday month this next cycle for our very last conversion and our very last migration. So I really would impress upon Arnold and his team, Rachel and their team, the entire team, to go back through every checklist and make sure, because we had a pretty good track record running till we hit this. So I don't want us to relax before we've completed the last rollout group, and make sure that it does have that positive building effect that all the directors expect.
Yes, and I can guarantee you that we've had 2 weeks of very intensive review doing exactly that as we prepare for this weekend's closed cases, as well as the 6A, bringing over the office and workers as well. So we're looking for these last 3 to be as smooth as yet, and continue to deliver on the end result for the counties, where 5B's been better than 4B, 4B was better than 3B, and 6B is going to be the best yet.
And just so the board knows that our Wave 6 counties also expressed their concern immediately, saying we don't have an extra day. And we met with those Wave 6 counties on Monday to go over these controls that have been put in place. And we do have a meeting with all 3 of those counties separately in their counties at the end of the month, where we'll be going through that and making sure that all checks are in place, and talking through that and regaining that confidence of the counties as we move forward. Move over to our next slide. There is another item that we're working through with Fresno County. Arnold, you want to give an update on that?
Sure. One item that came out of the 5B cutover had to do with the migration of the legacy images for Fresno County. It turns out that there was an issue that impacted 4.6 million out of 25 million documents. And what that issue was is that for those, when Fresno was doing their export, they had an issue in their compression logic to where only the first page of a multi-page document was exported. So where we are right now is that Fresno is able to access all the other pages in the legacy system, but it does have a little bit of a slowdown on the caseworker productivity having to go back. We are working with Fresno to re-export those missing pages, and we're working with our Highland vendor as well to be able to do the import to bring in and correct those 4.6 million documents. So we are targeting to have that complete by Monday the 25th. Those efforts are on process. There's work going on daily with Fresno as we work through the process to correct that. The other component of that is going to, and looking at, okay, how can we avoid this in Wave 6 as well? And that is, as they go through production validation and also on the export side, on the county side, there are ways that their additional checks can be done. It only impacted a subset of their multi-page documents. It was a specific file format that failed their compression logic. And so we're giving those learnings to the 3 Wave 6 counties so that they can be validating those as they work with their IT departments and their vendors on that export process to avoid an occurrence of this.
All right, let's go to our next slide and just sort of summarize before we turn it over for input from our counties.
Absolutely. So 5B was our largest conversion. If we look at it, we had over 989,000 cases that converted, 6 million recipients, over 4,500 county workers, over 4.19 billion rows transferred between CalWIN and CalSAWS during that conversion weekend. In addition to that, and this really goes towards the power of the counties, they also went live on an imaging solution as well as a contact center solution. So this was converting off of CalWIN and enabling new services as well. So it all came up successfully on that. So if we move to the next slide and talk about some of the other highlights, we set new system records as far as the number of concurrent users logged into CalSAWS. So with our 55 counties, we're at over 25,600 workers simultaneously logged in, working on the system. Our nightly batch for the 55 production counties has been finishing ahead of time before the 6 a.m. target, and online performance SLAs continue to be met for the platform. So CalSAWS has proven to be scaling and reliable as we've added each.
Rachel, you want to give this update?
I can give this update, yes. So relative to Wave 5, I'll say that it has been very common from what we have seen with the previous waves in terms of the usage so far. As we are moving from wave to wave, we are starting to see that people are using the ongoing case management functions within the first day. Historically, it was usually on the 4th or the 5th day, but now we're starting to see that once we have the enhancement that CalSAWS introduced that allows people to link their case right away and then get their periodic report or get their renewal or their recertification packet, that they're using those on day 1. So that's, I would say, the big change that we've seen from an adoption perspective with Benefits Cal with the 5th wave. Percentage-wise, when I looked this morning in terms of accounts that have been linked, just wanted to provide that within context. 2 of the counties have about 15% of their legacy MyBCW accounts that have been created in Benefits Cal, and one of the counties is sitting north of 25% already after the first week and a half, which is pretty amazing, relatively speaking to what we've seen in the previous wave.
All right, let's go to the next slide.
Rachel, I have to, just from my understanding, not remembering, now, does that mean new customers creating an account and then it's get their file or case?
It links to their case. So once you've created an account, that doesn't give you access to your case information if you're an active customer. So they have to go through the process of saying, I want to link my case. And you can use a variety of things to do that. They could use social security number, date of birth, case number, and once they establish that linkage, they then can get access to their notices, messages, recertification packets, their SAR 7, all of the rest of it. So it gives them, it opens the door to all of these things.
Right, so these are 31,000 people who actively went and created an account first, right? So,
These were 31,000 people that had active cases that created accounts.
Okay.
We had more people that had created initial accounts that are brand new that maybe just had applied.
And that was just in the first 5 days.
This is the first 5 days, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, and let's go to the next slide. And I think what we're hearing from Wave 4 counties, and you're going to be able to hear from our Wave 4 counties in just a second, but just from a post-implementation support, seems to be going strong, and we'll look for validation or correction of that from our counties. We have 159 CalSAWS county staff that are supporting our Wave 5 counties, I should say Wave 5, not 4. But there's 310 total volunteers from counties, and counties helping counties is very, very powerful. So approximately 400 virtual interactions recorded in the first 5 days, and we're sitting there right around 90% in first call resolution as it comes in and hitting that virtual support in those interactions. So I want to turn it over to our counties. I think first up, Sonia Bouguet, our director from Fresno County, has joined us here in the room. And just, nothing formal, how's it going? What are you guys seeing in Fresno County?
I really want to say, overall, it's going well. So the 25-hour delay was, I took a pause. I do genuinely appreciate both our own county staff that were doing click-through, starting in the middle of the night, right? But then the project's response overall, everybody's response during that time, being really on point of and here's the updates and where the updates are going to get through. So that piece of it made it, not just lived through it, but it was okay. It really was okay. I was expecting more issues first few days. I don't know why, but I really was. And we had some challenges. We had a number of our staff not being able to get onto the call center. And I think we were even several days into it still resolving how is the technology set up so we're not dropping calls. But I do appreciate everybody's responsiveness. And when I get on the calls with my managers, it was there was an issue that's identified, but there was also a plan. We had an issue with EBT, print, and that kind of thing the first day. I think within that first hour, that was resolved. I think for the most part, what I'm hearing really is learning curve kind of things. We expected that, and even that, it's not coming with the level of stress that I was expecting. It really was, people are figuring it out, and then I do think we're going to identify and start doing more of that, our own operational processes where staff are really recognizing hey, in Calvin, this took a few steps, we now have this piece, how we imagined it would translate isn't quite, and we have some better things. So I've said to the project staff that are with us, the other county staff that are with us, our own CNCs that are on the floor, anything identified that redoing our business processes, because it will now be simpler and faster, or we're now more comfortable, it's more real. I think we're entering that stage, but I do think overall, where we're at is good. So I do appreciate that piece. That really support from project staff, and I really do want to acknowledge Fresno's team that has been part of the implementation, really trying to be on top of it, and then other county support, like all of it really working together. I just genuinely have appreciated that even when they identify something, having the next steps and the solutions. I was gonna breathe through the moment of like, they were like 4.6 million images, and I'm like, okay, that's a lot in the grand scheme of things, but then our ability to access the legacy system, not that I want for majority of staff needing to access to, but that was there, and that there's a plan of what it will look like. So, I thank you all. It really has been well done.
Thank you. Your team, as well as the team from Sonoma and Alameda, has just been phenomenal. We'll go now to Paula Godowski from Sonoma County, one of our executives there. Paula, can you come on camera and give us the experience there in Sonoma?
Sure. Hopefully I'm on camera. Looks like I am on my end. So I want to second what was just said. Really, it was almost an emotional moment for us to see all the planning and the collaboration come to life over Go Live weekend. I want to acknowledge that while there was a hiccup, that we had excellent communication from the project. At no point in time did we doubt that it was going to go through, that Go Live was going to be successful. A big thank you to your team for that. You just, calm presence and helped guide us through with a plan. All of the partnerships that we had and came to life during this process, I think is really what made it successful. And again, that includes the TOS team members, other counties who are sending their team members to us to support our team member, our human services team, in particular, Lee Sparka, Victoria Gillis, Karen Taylor, and Suzanne May, who really have been leading this project over the last almost 5 years at this point. And then a special acknowledgement for Bobby, our regional manager. Incredible knowledge, master skill set at listening, breaking down a problem, figuring out a solution, helping us get those strategies in place as we went live in the first couple of weeks. Just as was indicated, we actually had a very robust communication and escalation process in place, which worked really, really well for our county, meaning that we focused a lot of the challenges at the self-driven model, and then on-site support, and then up through virtual, and then over to our implementation team. Bobby was absolutely essential in helping us get those high-level questions resolved, and we're continuing to work through a few of them, but they're on a checklist, and we know we're going to get there. At this point, I would also second that adjusting business processes is one of our biggest learnings in order to maximize functionality of CalSAWS. Various teams have been doing things the same way for a very long time. And with CalSAWS, there are a lot of opportunities to streamline and maximize that functionality. We went live on day one with our kiosks, and we are discovering that folks really are liking the kiosk model. Getting in there and being able to take care of their documents and get a receipt and walk out the door rather than waiting in lobby. So that's been a huge improvement for us. We certainly have some ongoing challenges. Like I said, we'll have an on the radar checklist for quite some time. I'm imagining at least a few months to sort of work through behind the scenes, but overall, absolutely fantastic experience. So thank you again to everyone, to the project, to Bobby, to my team, and to other counties.
Thank you, Paula. Congratulations. Your team's done an outstanding job. And we're happy that our Deputy Director from Alameda County, Anissa, has driven over and to be here with us in person. So, Anissa, why don't you tell us what's going on in Alameda County?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you in person. So overall, I think our sentiment has been, it's been a success. We were extremely worried, and for the record, it was not Alameda County that caused that cost. Not us. Though we were worried. We had a call on the side, we were like, it's not us, right? So we have phenomenal staff, both internally, that were deployed, throughout all of our offices, our click-through, as Sonia, I think you were mentioning, the click-through at 2 a.m., people were delirious by 9. They're like, I've already worked 7 hours. And, you know, our continued support from our CNCs, our TOS teams, and other counties, so those were all very helpful. We also had a coordinated effort, and thank you to Julie and Mary, who really, you know, told us that you need to have some kind of central command center. And so we were very organized, and have been. We've had 2-a-day calls for the last 2 weeks that have worked really well. And that has been internal staff, project staff, and our county ITD. So it has helped us to escalate really quickly and to work with the project. We call them glows and grows. So those were our glows for us. And our grows that we learned, our imaging had some hiccups, if you will, but we quickly worked with the project team at things like we needed 2 monitors just to go a little bit quicker. And so we were able to work with our county ITD to get those 2 monitors deployed, and we're going a little bit faster. We're only, you know, in the end of the second week, so we're getting there. And our other grows, you know, our lobbies have been overflowing. We had kiosks. We had some ancillary hiccups over the last 2 months that we're working through, but we're continuing to work on our business operations, and I think over the next few months we'll be able to work through that. But it is a growing pain for us. We also had a few fiscal issues with our foster care checks not issuing, which we've also worked through quickly with our fiscal team. As of this morning, it looks like that has been resolved. And then we also had some technical issues that we were encountering where some of the information wasn't converting. Again, that was also identified as a defect, but we're working with the project. Just wanted to say thank you again to everyone, to Julie, to Mary, to Duncan, all our project leads, to my team, our team over there, Glenn Wallace, Brenda Baumgardner, Jose Argueta, Antoinette Burns, our co-pilot, Amara Robles, if you're on the line, all our division directors, program managers, everyone, and our county ITD staff. So we really appreciate all the project staff support. It's been great, a huge learning experience. One of our team members even said, hey, this went better than conversion back in 2005. So we'll take that as a win.
Thank you, Anissa. Well, I think that's always the most valuable part, is to hear from our counties that, you know, there is light on the other side, and as we head into wave 6, and also as we head into the future as a 58-county consortium. And again, a plug, that's what our January conference is about, it isn't a slowdown, it's focusing on innovation and what we can do as a 58-county consortium. Michael, I think that closes off our agenda item 7. So it's back to you for questions or comments.
Okay, that was a very fruitful discussion. So I'll go ahead and open up to any comments or questions from our board members or our state partners on that presentation. Okay, hearing none. Any public comment? Okay, hearing none, we can go ahead and move on to our next item.
So as you can see, that some of these board meetings might get a little bit shorter once we get done with migration, but we always are looking back in order to make innovations going forward, and we do retrospectives. So we're going to have the team come on, and I see Gretchen's coming on to give an update on our Wave 4 retrospective. What did we learn? What are we gleaning from that? And what are we applying? Gretchen, are you there?
I am, John. Good afternoon. Thank you. So this is Gretchen Williams. I'm with the ClearBest QA team. As the CalSAWS Migration Retrospective Facilitator, I, along with my fellow presenters today, are pleased to join you all for our Wave 4 Retro update. So as we shared in the previous JPA statuses that we provided, CalSAWS follows a standard approach for migration retrospectives. So upon conclusion of each wave, project teams come together to reflect on lessons learned and explore potential opportunities for improvement. I think as you'll see as we move through the conversation today that this ties in nicely with the conversation that we've just had. So many different facets where we're looking at lessons learned and opportunities to continue to adjust. So the presenters joining me today will be sharing specific outcomes from their respective areas, and that's based on what we've learned through the Wave 4 activities and the action that is taken to continuously improve the migration experience for counties and subsequent waves. So I was hearing the sentiment from the folks earlier in the conversation saying with each wave, things are getting better and better, and I think this is a perfect example of some of the due diligence that's being applied here. So as you'll see here on the slide, the retrospective approach taken by the project is truly multifaceted, meaning that the reflection is conducted through multiple lenses with input captured from different viewpoints. So we have sessions that are conducted with internal project teams to discuss the observations and identify potential enhancement opportunities, as well as the sessions that are conducted directly within each participating county to gain insight from their migration experience. So we can go to the next slide, please. The retrospective sessions consist of guided discussions, and this is consistent for each one of our wave retros. This is where teams pause and reflect on what worked. We share observations and potential opportunities for improvement, and then we conclude with brainstorming on recommended action. So based on the complexity or the sensitivity of the action identified, teams may be applying real-time adjustments within the current wave, and the conversation that we just had related to conversion in Wave 5 is a perfect example of that. The teams may also be initiating activity on adjustments that will be benefiting future wave counties that may be a bit more complex and require a bit more time to implement. So a list of internal project sessions by topic are included here, and this is simply to demonstrate the diversity of the areas that are covered and the commitment that the project has to assessing all facets of migration activities. And as I mentioned, presenters will be joining me today to go into specific details on each of those topics. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the content that comes out of each of these sessions enables the teams to action upon adjustments as needed. So this could include both internal activities such as cross-team collaboration or process improvements within the project, and changes that are more external facing, such as providing additional resources or on-site support coordination, which directly benefits participating counties. So the information that we're sharing today has been rolled up to provide a high-level overview. This is with a specific focus on action taken that will result in direct benefit to the counties. There is a ton of information that comes out of these retros. They're very robust discussions, but want to make sure that we're concise and the information we share today is very relevant. It is worth noting that we fully anticipated and we've already experienced a reduction in the number of observations and recommended actions captured for each migration wave. And this is by design. As we're learning and evolving, we continue to improve throughout each of our waves. So simply put, the actions taken based on those lessons learned in prior waves has enabled the project to further refine the planning and the execution of migration activities, which is benefit both the project and our county partners. So each of my fellow presenters will focus first on the themes that were identified in their sessions around improvement opportunities, and then provide a recap on the actions that were taken as a result of what we learned specifically in the Wave 4 experience. So with that, without further ado, I'll turn it over to Catherine, who will kick us off with OCM training and implementation.
Thank you, Gretchen, and good afternoon, everyone. As Gretchen has mentioned, I'm going to be covering the themes and the actions that we've taken for organizational change management, training, and implementation. The overall themes that you'll note highlighted on this slide is more about our own internal coordination, infusing our change management into our implementation meetings and vice versa, higher degrees of coordination with the regional managers who play such a critical and successful role within our migration, and also working with the counties during the migration on those processes. Lastly, another theme is to continue to communicate and reinforce our processes for realigning post-implementation support resources and working with the RMs and the counties to be empowered for suggesting and driving those changes that are needed at the county level. So we can move forward one slide. On this slide, it provides the tools, the processes, and the communication changes that were suggested in both the internal as well as the Wave 4 County retrospectives that the ISS team led back in August. For OCM, let's first start with the tools. So for OCM, they have resources on site the first few weeks of go live. They are now being integrated, and we were able to apply this for Wave 5. They are integrated with our broader implementation efforts. For training, those efforts have had lessons learned regarding the pure volume of our Wave 4 counties. And the total number, there were 4 counties involved in Wave 4 for training, and for Waves 5 and 6, there are 3 counties included. So for implementation, a few of the tools noted, highlighted with more emphasis during the orientation sessions for the Wave 5 county support volunteers. What are the processes to inform the project of any type of changes, alternative work schedules, etc. For processes, starting with OCM, the theme of the coordination is very prevalent here as well. For OCM, they are now included in our pre-implementation meetings with the TOS and the IPOC meetings, and they also are starting to attend the pre and post go live activities that we have across the project. Implementation was focused on streamlining those processes for the counties to realign resources for post-implementation support based on their county-specific needs, what is being identified through the virtual support, as well as having regional managers be central for all of those efforts in the coordination. For communication, OCM is focused on sharing their lessons learned within their change management activities, their surveys, and integrating them into the implementation pre-go live activities. For implementation, our communications was focused on reformatting the county prep daily debrief documentation to focus on what interests the counties and what information they need. And that is highlighting and responding and resolving their questions that are identified and escalated during the daily office hours, and providing more information on the question tracker that is distributed every day after the daily debrief. Now I'll turn it over to Don to highlight the contact center, imaging, and lobby management.
Yes, thank you, Catherine. Within our areas of themes, we have the communications within our lessons learned, county support, and then resources. And within these specific areas, we've also had county engagement as well as engagement from our regional managers. If we could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, if you focus right now on the tools pillar, you'll see that within the imaging, we've actually did increase our on-site support. I think we heard that from the counties for contact center imaging and and lobby management. From those, we wanted to assign specific tasks, specific resources with skill sets for the specific offices, and that comes into the process section down below. One of the areas that you heard was within lobby management for kiosks within the same pillar. And we have been evolving, but we have to really kind of mature even the planning and scheduling for the ongoing maintenance of the kiosks with the counties. So we've initiated that because this will even go past go lives. But this also had focus specific to the counties and the engagement ongoing. Within the processes pillar, we have contact center, imaging, and lobby management in here. I'll summarize these just from a highlight. The contact center county engagement really was to increase the use of our CalSAW's provided virtual support that OCM and the RMs also established for us within that engagement. I would just skip if you don't mind, onto the communications part of it, because this will really wrap up our area for it. We did the increase of support within the reviews of the county scripts for their contact center and their call trees. We wanted to identify areas that would be impactful for them to deliver a better day one experience, which we did do. That would wrap up our contact center, imaging, and lobby management update. I'll turn it over to Rachel Hernandez.
And good afternoon again. This is Rachel Hernandez, and I will be acting like mine is 3 feet shorter. From a perspective, a couple of themes that, were highlighted as part of this whole effort, was just the increased county touch points, the resources available for our staff, better communication, and enhanced access to some of the tools and applications. Go to the next slide. Thank you very much. From a tools perspective, and specifically county data validation, the scripts continue to evolve, but we did add some additional, more detailed pieces of information in the last set of scripts that we have for CDB. From a training tips perspective, we actually do record them and updated them to include a little bit more information of what we include in the scripts, as well as how to actually execute those scripts in this last CDB. One of the things that we also try to incorporate a little bit better is enhanced communication on what the data they're looking at refers to, because the data was mapped. From a conversion standpoint, the curve fee that goes out to the counties to recruit, who participates in that was slightly enhanced to better clarify what participants are recruited, when are they recruited for, and what to expect as part of that that folks participate in your federal grant. In addition, there was another checkpoint added. Instead of one, now they have two over the weekend to give them a better idea of when that click queue actually starts. From a process perspective, for CDB, the kickoff meetings include a little bit more demonstrations and workthroughs of the script again. We also enhanced the access for users. For CDB, initially folks had county-specific access. This made it a little bit harder to navigate through the cases or just finding cases within the program. Enhancing their access allowed them to navigate a lot easier, not only to security issues, which was not the objective of CDB. From a conversion standpoint, I covered a little earlier, we just continue to enhance our pre-flight checklist, incorporate a couple more checks prior to even the conversion starting. Also, from a DCR perspective or a data change perspective, we identified additional areas in which we could apply some data fixes after conversion, also lowering that yellow banner case number as much as possible, and we continue to evaluate that as part of the process. On the communication front, from a CDB perspective, we have a couple of documents that we share with the teams that highlighted where they were and emphasized the purpose of them, specifically the mapping transformation, which is a high-level description of where the data is coming from, how it's transformed from Cal into CalSAWS, as well as what you need to know, which we actually leverage from the Go Live packet and share with the county participants. From a conversion perspective, again, we added a couple more touch points specifically for our county participants to make them aware of better timing, especially if, shifts a couple hours here and there. Go to the next slide. Pass it on to
yeah, thank you.
Michael or Rachel.
Yeah. If we could go to the next slide. I'll say a theme throughout our three areas for Benefits Cal ties to what you had talked about before, which is around lobbies and specifically awareness. For Wave 4, one of the items that we identified was that our readiness checklist did not have specificity for the counties to say, here are the things that you should be doing in your lobbies to make sure that you're updating. If you've got screens that have rolling messages, if you need to, take down poster boards, whatever it might be. So that was updated in the readiness checklist. From a process perspective, we do have people on site. We started that with Wave 2 that are in the counties helping out with actually showing people Benefits Cal in the first couple of weeks. We had a team that was just in Alameda last week, and we'll be rotating through all the counties. And then the last item, we've been monitoring a lot what the counties have been doing with our marketing toolkits. And I'll say those marketing toolkits are really proving to be extremely beneficial for adoption because we're seeing higher usage in the counties that have really been pushing marketing and outreach before Benefits Cal goes live. And that's something that we would encourage the counties to do when Wave 6 comes on too. I will turn it back to Michael. That's the end of the retrospective.
Okay, thank you all. Rachel, I do have just something to put out there on the retrospective on the benefits Cal side is that I mentioned it before. I want to keep a focus on it is two, major areas. Both are establishing accounts and linking them to the cases unassisted from the public, and also document uploading process, again, unassisted by the public, and really looking closely at those for future. For Benefits Cal, where we can make those processes easier, more accurate, and more helpful.
Yeah, Michael, we have, we're calling it the big three. So account creation, case linking, document upload. We are going to be sharing on an ongoing basis back to this group and in all of our forums what steps we have taken, what those steps have resulted in terms of outcomes around adoption, and then what the future path looks like for additional changes. Because I think that outcome piece is something that we need to report back to this group so that everyone understands what we're really seeing in terms of changes in the adoption rate on all three of those areas.
And Rachel, you're going to be bringing that concept to the collaboration model that's up and coming. So as the collaboration model looks at and prioritizes change, that they're going to be looking at these three areas as an area of focus, because that's where we're getting a lot of our feedback on.
Correct, and we will also, John, in our roadmap that we maintain, have a very focused area on those three areas that even includes the research that we're going to be doing ongoing in this area too. So it's not just changes, but the user research that's being done around it too.
Great, thank you for confirming.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions from our board members or our state partners? Okay, any public comment?
Not needed. Hi, this is Jennifer. Thanks. I just wanted to acknowledge our appreciation for the inclusion of Benefits Cal in the retrospective, and we look forward to partnering on these processes of where they're public facing in the future.
Yeah. Okay, then I think we can go ahead and move on to our next item. I believe that's the future waves readiness.
Perfect, thank you.
Readiness.
All right, so now where there last month we had 2 waves, now we only have 1. So this project and overall CalSAW's readiness for wave 6 is as of earlier this week, and there's been a lot of progress already made. So from the last time we met, I did just want to highlight that the state interface partner testing is complete, as is the county network connectivity. So those were 2 fundamental changes from our prior meeting. Now, there are 3 watch items that we did want to walk through with the group today. The first is for application for imaging readiness. This is directly correlated to risk number 264, and the project team continues to work with the county to identify the imaging activities that will be needed for the cutover weekend later in October. And Arnold will go through risk 264 in a couple of slides. Like I had mentioned, county connectivity is also now complete, and that's been one of the largest milestones we've had. I do want to also now refer to the second watch item on the list that has to do with the county interface partner testing. This week, there was a lot of activities across the board with the 3 counties. San Francisco and Sacramento have completed their IPT testing this week. The project is closely working with San Luis Obispo on their final interface, which involves the bank testing. So within this interface, SLO is working with their bank to be able to complete the testing within the next 3 to 5 business days. And the project is working incredibly close with San Luis Obispo each day to check on not just the status, but what additional support is needed to make sure that their bank can complete that testing timely. The other and the last watch item that we have to report today is in regards to risk number 269. This has to do with the county ad hoc refactoring reports. The 3 counties are working with the project on this, and there is also some separate conversations taking place as well with the counties as needed. The other major milestone this past week that we did want to highlight is in regards to the green light meeting that was provided on Wednesday of this week. And that was for cutover 6A and 5C. And so we will talk a little bit about those activities. Arnold will walk us through those in a little bit, but we did want to highlight that major milestone for both the Wave 5 and the Wave 6 counties, as county prep activities will begin on Monday, pending the results of this weekend. And now I'll go ahead and turn it over to Arnold to go through the the cutover calendar of activities for 5C and 6A.
So this weekend, for the read-only counties on Calvin, there's no change. Calvin read-only will be available. For Sacramento, San Francisco, and San Luis Obispo, Calvin will not be available beginning on Saturday at 6 p.m. So that's tomorrow night at 6 p.m. And will become available again on Monday the 18th by 6 a.m. Benefits Cal is available for customers and CBO users without MFA, so they can submit their applications starting at 8 p.m. tonight and lasting until 6 a.m. on Monday. CalSAWS will be going down at 8 o'clock tonight and will be coming up before 6 a.m. on Monday as we complete the conversion. So CalSAWS LMS, PRT, sandbox training will all be available during the course of this weekend. As far as the IVR is concerned, we've worked through each of the counties to set up what the availability is for those. And then from that perspective, we are set for the weekend and fully expect to be up by 6 a.m. Monday morning. If we move on to the next slide, this looks forward to our 6B conversion. And this is looking at the weekend of October 26th and wrapping up through the 30th, or on Monday the 30th. So at a high level, it's going to follow the same schedule that we had for Wave 5 and Wave 4, which is my BCW will go down at 5 p.m. on Thursday the 26th. That gives the three counties time to process those BCW images and applications before the core system comes down at 6 p.m. on Thursday. If you look at what happens with CalSAWS, it'll come down at 8 o'clock on Friday. We will run our batch, run the conversion process, and we will be up before 6 a.m. on Monday, 10:30. Similar to what we saw, Benefits Cal will be available for customers and CBO users without MFA enabled from 8 p.m. Friday until 6 a.m. on Monday. There is a window in there between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. on Monday when Benefits Cal is going to be not available as they complete their conversion processes. IVRs will be operated the same way. They will be, obviously, we're enabling the IVRs for the Wave 6 counties, but for the production IVRs, again, we'll work with the counties around the availability of those. And then we have no changes to system downtime for CalSAWS PRT and LMS for the CalSAWS county staff. So if we move to the next slide, this anchors back to how we started the conversation earlier around the additional quality assurance. That has been steps that we are implementing to make sure that 6B is successful and hits the schedule. We have already confirmed that the 5B fix, or the default caseworker assignment, was included in the results of our 6B mock, which will give us a valid comparison as we go through our actual comparisons during the weekend runs. The SCR will apply those values in production on September 22nd, so that's the 2309-22 release. And we will be validating that it ran successfully and that the values are in existence in the tables. So as Rachel had reviewed, we have our additional checks as well in the process in the overall 6B cutover plan to address those gaps and prerequisite tasks. and to make sure that everything has been successfully validated and run prior to the start of conversion, which will give us the successful. Moving on to the next slide, we can actually start going through our risk exposure. And the reason why we saw the risk exposure elevate is because overall it was the challenges that we had with the 5B to where we were green with risk 258, and now we're yellow until we finish implementing these remedial actions. So, but overall, we continue to trend down from where we were a year ago, which is fully expected as we're coming up on wave 6 and through the first 5 waves. So starting, if we go to the next wave, we can start with the review of our overall risks, and we'll start with 260.
Thanks, Arnold. And you teed it up perfectly. So last month we were at amber with 262, and now we are at green, so trending down with wave 6. This is resulting from the counties indicating to us that they have received the information that they need to be prepared. It's something that we're still going to monitor until we go live, but we have trended down to a green this month.
For 264, the Calhoun County waves may not complete their imaging migration readiness activities by their designated wave go-live dates. Reason why this one is amber is we're still working with Sacramento County on what's called their Delta. So that's basically any of the imaging activity that's occurring in their legacy environment the last couple of weeks prior to that conversion process. During conversion weekend, those are actually exported from the system and then converted over to CalSAWS as part of the overall weekend conversion activities. Timings produced so far have shown that there's been an elongation in that time of that export. We are working with Sacramento and their vendor to look at how we trim that down so it fits into conversion weekend. But right now, all indications are that that will be resolved. 269. And this is around our Calhoun counties not having enough time to develop and test and refactor their ad hoc reports and ancillary systems. As Catherine had talked about, for our Wave 6 counties, we keep this one at a yellow because we divide those up into must-have day 0 reports that have to be there at go live versus those that can come in afterwards. We're working with the counties to make sure that development timelines on that refactoring are going to meet those day 0 guidelines, and right now all counties are on track to do so.
And Arnold, just to mention something on that, we know that we've been tracking this as a go live risk, and this has gone very well. Everybody's been able to go live. We know that post go live that now the counties are digging into doing their ad hoc reports and how to do that and what they need to be able to do that. And we're working to make sure that we have a support plan associated with that, with all of our project team, to say what is needed as we go forward, because people are up. Now it's sort of like, okay, now to the next thing is some of those ad hoc reports and things like that. What will be that process going forward in M&O and M&E? So there's more information to come on that at future meetings, but we know sort of what is the support process and what things do we have as resources in place going forward for the counties.
89, we have been keeping this on a watch item, which is the move from Calhoun Light to the new system for the Child Care Portal and Benefits Cal. All indications for Wave 6 right now are the counties are saying that they are ready and prepared.
All right, so then we move into the project readiness set of risks. So starting with 258, the Calhoun conversion window is at risk of completing past the 84-hour cutover window. This was green in last month's meeting. We went to amber as a result of the 5B. We believe this will be green by the time we go back to, or we're actually hitting the conversion event at the end of October because of the process steps and additional controls that have been implemented. And those we will be executing some additional mock runs of that 6B conversion to validate those processes. 285.
Arnold, just quickly, because that was what impacted us last wave. What's the anticipated date when you will know that it could be toggled back to green?
Well, we'll have that toggled back to green by the end of September.
We'll have all the
Provide-
tests and all the validations in place by then?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And those tests and validations are actually in place already, and have been added to that, work plan. So it will be the actual runs of those, additional runs that have confirmation of by end of September, and then we'll be able to report that out in the October JPA and PSC prior to, the end of the month and the execution.
All right, thanks.
You want to cover 285?
Yes, so 285 is making sure that the counties are ready when we conclude post-implementation support at the end of the 60 days, that they are prepared to take over. And we have worked with the Wave 6 counties. The last item that we need to work through is a couple of the counties under escalation procedures, but all indications are that they are ready to go and take over at the end of the 60 days.
For 279, Cal 1 counties may not be prepared to reconcile fiscal and submit state reports timely as they migrate to CalSAWS. Again, we keep this one at an amber as we work with the counties 2 weeks prior to the go live around the fiscal process, as well as after the go live for the 2 months, because the first month is a hybrid close using CalWIN and CalSAWS, and then the second month is 100% executed on CalSAWS. There are Thursday meetings that are available to all the counties, including the incoming counties, that go through that process where questions are answered around that state and fiscal process, and if additional support is required, we will have standalone meetings with the counties as well. 280 is around unresolved go live dependent defects that exist after the go live. And so much as we've seen with the trend on the waves, that we have fewer and fewer of those defects that actually exist at the time of go live. We update the conversion logic and have the database updates, and that runs during the conversion weekend. The lower impacting ones get resolved in days 0 through 10, because we need the results of the actual conversion to do the updates. And then anything that remains where there is a workaround that a county worker has to do, included in the go live packet that is given to them prior to the go live. So they have the information and the processes required to be able to continue to process. And then the last risk is around scalability and performance, and this is really the scaling of CalSAWS production operations, including batch operations, to provide 58 county support without effectively taking into account the multi-county, multi-vendor CalSAWS ecosystem may impact business operations. So again, we leave this one as an amber. There is a checklist that is completed with each of the counties prior to the go live that focuses around their interface partner testing, the exchange of files that occurs during the course of the nightly process, the communication that occurred from the project to the counties and back and forth, as well as reporting issues, making enhancement requests, and general integration into the production operations cadence. So that we are on track to complete that for all of the counties. So with that, Michael, that completes this section. Happy to answer any other questions.
Awesome. Well, there's still a number of yellows, but you have explained the process by which you're going to get those to green. I'll go ahead and open up for the other board members or state partners for any questions or comments that they might have. Okay, hearing none, any public comment? All right, thank you for that presentation, and look forward to updates as we approach Wave 6. I think that takes us, are we on to release and policy updates? Is that the next one? Yep.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. We have some dense topics here. However, we are 24 minutes behind schedule today. So we do have some highlights. We could talk about some of these topics all day long. So feel free to reach out to me afterwards if there's anything else folks want to cover. It is a slightly abbreviated version, today. I did see Teresa's on, and we are going to start with a very important unwinding topic, and DHCS would like to give a few updates to begin.
Thanks, Lisa, and I'll be very, very quick since I've shared this out in quite a few different meetings. One, just letting folks know that we are working on automating some of the different waivers that we've been approved for, both in the CalHERE side and also in the CalSAW side. The first of that update is going to happen with the automation of the 100% FPL and zero income waivers. This will have the most significant impact on the amount of Medi-Cal members that we see are successfully completed through ex parte. That is going to go live on September 29th. And so the October renewals, or the October ex parte for December renewals, will be the first time that we'll be leveraging this enhancement. We're also looking at a couple of other areas in regards to ex parte to do some enhancements around the Medicare check and the individual taxpayer identification number, also known as the ITIN number. We'll provide updates as we move closer through the programming of those particular pieces. Also, just letting folks know that DHCS on September 8th did release our July version of the continuous coverage unwinding data dashboard that includes enrollment and renewal information. This is the first time it actually includes demographic details for all measures, along with top reasons for disenrollment. This is searchable by county, so a great tool for counties to leverage to sort of see where things are at with the unwinding. And then last, we issued MEDL 23-42 on recently approved waivers. We actually, hot off the press, just had another waiver approved, and we'll be releasing another MEDL today or Monday with that. The 3 waivers that were approved is stable income. So it's where Medi-Cal members that have stable income like Social Security, pensions, other types of retirement income, permanent disabilities, can go through the ex parte process without needing additional paperwork. We think this would be a significant impact to the non-MAGI ex parte population, and so have been working extremely closely with CalSAWS and CalWIN to work on the automation of this particular waiver, and we'll have more to come in the near future. But in addition to that, ones that help alleviate both that application and during renewal is the removal of the requirement to have Medi-Cal members apply for unconditionally available income, such as unemployment, and also the waiver of the medical support enforcement. So if there is an absent parent or unmarried parents, counties no longer need to go through that process during the continuous coverage unwinding. And I will pass it back over to you, Lisa, for the other updates.
Sure, thank you. So I'm going to go in reverse order just to see if we're still awake on a Friday afternoon. So to tag on to what Teresa was saying, we are having multiple working sessions across SAWS, systems, and DHCS to look at the stable income waiver and what automation changes we can put into the system and how quickly we can do that. We are looking at attempting to do some interim process for the December renewal cycle with ex parte starting in early October, with more automation coming in December. It is a priority item that we're all working towards, as Teresa said, so we can increase the ex parte around the non-MAGI Medi-Cal population. Moving back up the page, ex parte, this again is an important topic. We are looking at some of the reporting changes. We're working on with DHCS around the ex parte reporting logic. We have made some adjustments this month, and those were shared out with the counties through the data review process. Again, if there are questions, comments, please reach out to me. We are having ad hoc meetings with counties as this topic comes up if there's additional information or clarification. We do know with our migrating counties, there's questions around some of the reporting differences, so happy to have those sessions with you as well. And then the first bullet, this has been raised, I know it was a topic last month, so around document upload, so where customers are uploading renewals through Benefits Cal using the doc upload feature. We're currently working on a system change targeted for 9/28 So with that change, if the doc type is selected as Medi-Cal renewal, when that comes through the API, we will be searching to confirm the existence of a customer reporting record and marking that as received in the system. Today, that functionality is not present. What happens today is a task is created for the worker, but this will take an additional step and mark the packet as received. So this is also a priority item. We're currently scheduled to start testing this on Monday. So we'll continue to keep focused there.
And when it's marked as received and goes through that process, it stops the auto discontinuance.
Correct. Correct. Next slide, please. All right, so some other key release highlights. Since we met last month, we did run the CalWorks map increase, CalFresh COLA for, at the time, the 52 production counties. We did run it slightly differently this year because we had just weekend real estate for running system changes is very small these days. So we ran 47 counties on the weekend. The system was then taken offline for a number of hours for much required maintenance activities. So we did run several counties throughout the week, which is why we ended on the 31st. That is not typically how we do it, so I did just want to point that out, but they have run through conclusion for all 52 counties. Last night, we did run a mass replacement for 14 counties who were impacted by flooding and power outages last month with the storms. So we did issue for those 14 counties replacement of about 30% of their benefits from August. There was over $500,000 issued last night for the impacted households in those counties. Our release for this month is wrapping up testing. We're down to the last few handful of items. We did have a webcast this week, and as expected with more counties in the system, more people are attending, which is great. I think we were close to 400 county workers attended our webcast. Over 22 items were reviewed, and I think we actually went an hour longer than planned, so there was a lot of good interaction at the webcast. Green light is next Wednesday. We start deployment activities next Sunday. And then one other item there, just to keep on your radar, in October, we will be restarting TMB, Transitional Nutrition Benefit recertifications. They have been suspended for 2 years. There's some changes there to increase the period from 6 months to a year and increase the restoration period as well. So for those households who have a recertification due in November, in October is when we will generate that packet, the TMB4, and send that out. So another new item coming down the pipe. And Michael, real quick on the EBT item from earlier in the agenda, the replacement of benefits through theft. So that change is now approved, and we'll start working on that. So specifically the EBT 2259, updating that in all 19 languages. There's some reporting changes. Additionally, there's integration there with Benefits Cal and allowing customers who have an account to submit that request online, and that will come through an API into CalSource for the worker. Again, haven't started, but we will be starting that shortly, and I think it's the coordinated changes are planned for the March timeframe.
Great. I know that that's probably being experienced in all the counties, their offices, having so much traffic coming up in their office associated with that. So appreciate tracking that one closely.
Okay. All right, next slide. This is a key item for CalFresh. And I know Andrea, I saw you on, Andrea Brayboy from CDSS, so I welcome you to come on and maybe give us a quick overview here, and then I can talk about some of the automation changes we're working on in very rapid fashion.
Thank you so much. Really quick, I want to emphasize that this is in regards to the potential of a federal shutdown come September at midnight. What we are doing is we're exploring, we've submitted a way to FNS to authorize early issuance of October benefits in the month of September. This is the same application that we conducted in 2019 for January 20th. in the last shutdown that lasted approximately 35 days. So within this, we shared this yesterday, and we'll share it here in this space. We're looking at the main payroll being moved up, and I'm sure Lisa will explain this a little bit more, to capture all cases in which a September report, be it SAR-7 or recertification, is not due, and then those that have been processed by the date the file is handed over to FIS. We anticipate that there will be a SNAP reserve available for the month of October. So recipients that do not receive their benefits in the early run will receive their benefits if processed and authorized for October on their regular issuance date. But again, at this point, FNS has not provided any guidance, so we are being, intuitive in this space to try to ensure that we can draw down as much money and funds as possible before a real shutdown occurs at the end of the month. And we want to have all of our ducks in a row so that if we do have to implement, we can do so correctly. Again, I want to just emphasize my appreciation to this team in the SAWS in meeting and brainstorming and coming up with a very solid plan that we have moving forward. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Lisa and then address any potential questions that anyone has.
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, so from an automation perspective, so we've had several working sessions this week with Andrea and her team, Calwin, as well as with OTSI and FIS. The last time and only time we've done this that I can recall in the last 2 decades is in January of 2019, where we did in fact issue those February benefits early. So we've been re-looking at the changes we did there, meeting as a collective group to get agreement because there is handoff across systems. So at this time, the plan forward should we move forward with this is that we need to make sure that FIS has all of the files for all the counties by 2 a.m. next Friday morning, 9/22. So as that stands from a CalSOL's perspective, currently on the 21st, we have 53 counties scheduled to run main payroll that night. That will go as planned. We will be looking at whether or not we want to perhaps start batch a little bit earlier on that night to make sure we meet that window. Of course, these changes always come at interesting times since we'll be running main payroll for 3 counties for the first time. We typically take a pause and make sure we validate that information. So we want to make sure we have sufficient time to meet that deadline with FIS. As it relates to the other 2 counties, so I will call out Michael, LA County, and Riverside County. So currently, your main payrolls are actually scheduled to run after the 22nd. We have reached out to both counties and are planning to run on 9/20, which would be next Wednesday night. So that email went out yesterday to get confirmation from the counties that that is something we can move forward with in order to prepare and be ready for this plan should it go forward. So that's where we're at from a CalSOL's automation perspective. And now off to Ona.
Thank you.
Off to the races. I'm talking so fast.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. So good afternoon, everyone. From the benefits call release highlight standpoint, what we see here is an outline of the key milestones, including our collaboration model quarterly meetings, as well as the Calvin waves and the monthly releases we have been working on. We have a busy September, October coming up, and we will be adding a summary of the collaboration model roadmap for the next meeting as well. So this group can see an overview of what's going on in terms of the both implementation and the UCD research activities. And on the Calvin side, we are so happy to have 5 counties integrated to benefits Cal and CalSAWS, and we are looking forward to also see 6 counties integrated in October as well. In terms of the key highlights, we have a marketing campaign which is coming out this month in September, and we are so excited to share that all the digital materials for the campaign is complete, and emails are being sent out at this week as well. And I will be sharing more details about the campaign shortly in the benefits call section. And on the monthly releases, September release 2309 is coming up later this month. on 28th with 8 enhancements. One item to highlight maybe here for this group is an appointment screen will be updated to allow users to see appointments and additional details such as exact time, frame, and appointment details, and a nudge with help text for customers to inform them about their who's going to be calling either the county or the customer for that particular appointment. It is coming up this month to improve their overall user experience, but we have also a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of improvements coming up in October and November as well. And once we add that summary slide from the collaboration model roadmap, everyone can have detailed view of that. And the collaboration model meeting is next quarterly meeting is coming up on September 22nd. Lynn, anything you would like to highlight from the releases standpoint?
Thank you, Owner. Yes. So I did want to call and provide just a very quick update. We will also provide a little more detail during Project Steering Committee on one of the items listed here, and that is for Q4, where it reflects the CalWorks time clocks. This is a change for both CalSAWs and for Benefits Cal to display the CalWorks time clocks within Benefits Cal. Based off of information input received during the July and August review sessions that included our counties and external stakeholders, we're looking at adjusting the release date from November of 2023 to March of 24. In part, that's to allow all 58 counties to be on one system and allow everybody to get settled in within the system, and an opportunity to review and update if there's any time clock information that needs to be, which will include many of our individuals have time clock information across multiple counties. It will allow for a little more usability. With some conversations, there was some other input with some wanting to gather some better understanding of our functionality. But I did want to share this. The messaging has started just this week to advise everybody of this, in part because trying to coordinate all the activities across our entire system, and including some testing time and times for reviews, and get the messaging out.
Thank you, Lynn. And one more item to call out is we have been working with stakeholders, consortium, and the advocate partners for the chatbot expansion. It has been very positive in terms of collecting the feedback to design the expansion together, and it is coming up this October, this fall. And we are so excited to share that with you as well. And with that, Michael, handing it over to you for any questions for this section overall.
Okay. Thank you for that update on the release and policy information. So any questions or comments from our board members, state partners on this presentation deck? Okay, hearing none. Any public comment? Okay, I'll go ahead and move on. We'll jump into Benefits Cal. Well, Owner, you're going to probably stay up then, huh?
And I will. Thank you, Michael.
Actually, I'll go ahead and take this. This is for the release of information, the update on the work group. We had our first kickoff. It was last month, August 14th. This past Monday, we had our first working session, if you will. There was a lot of great discussion. We had a lot of collaboration, our state folks are highly engaged in this. They were able to provide information, being able to respond, seek clarifications. Our counties were able to ask some questions. There were some clarifications that were offered, where our external stakeholders also had some clarifications and some pointers to bring up. So we have another session scheduled for this coming Monday. So I do anticipate there'll be some more updates around that. But I do want to thank everybody that is participating in there. It was a lot of conversations. We used that entire time frame to try and come to a similar understanding on some of our terms and our definitions. Of course, that's a key important piece as we continue to move forward, because that'll provide the foundation for helping rounding out those policies and the processes as we continue moving forward. So there was 2 slides for this, and I spoke pretty much to both of them in the interest of trying to keep us going.
Thank you, Lynn. In addition to when we met last time in the month of August, we had provided an update on the collaboration model activities and including an overview of the items implemented, and as well as the UCD research completed too. And on top of, in addition to those items, there is a number of items and areas we have been tracking that came up through the public comments, usability, along with the feedback from the counties as well, and what we have been hearing from the service desks too. So these are areas include what Michael and Rachel highlighted earlier, includes the account creation, account management, document upload, case linking, renewals, and overall usability. And what we have been taking these back and to our UCD processes for our analysis and for usability standpoint in alignment with the items brought up through the comments earlier. I will provide a couple highlights what has been implemented recently on these key areas. In terms of the account creation and the management, there has been improvements implemented in BenefitsCal in the month of June, which guides customers through the phone and email verification while creating an account and resetting their password, which would ultimately improve the customer experience and reduce the phone calls that counties may receive from customers. These are also related to the action item scenario that Kristen's comments from previous JPA. One of the items that was introduced, given the our usage analysis in the month of June. As it relates to the dashboards and the renewals, implemented changes in the July and August releases in customer dashboard that allows customers to view the data of the periodic reports and the renewals received through any channel, and also informing them about their periodic report and the renewals will be complete, the time frame basically. And these changes would provide more transparency to the customers in their renewals journey. And more to come, because we also have a renewals tracker coming up in this fall as well, giving them overall like a tracker view of where their renewals are after the submission too, so they can have a full transparency in their renewals journey, the customers. For the overall usability, we delivered multiple enhancements this summer to improve the experience in the system, and especially when the systems are in offline mode, that allows customers to view their case details and IRT information during the maintenance window, which would reduce the potential confusion and the phone calls the counties may receive from the customers, especially during the maintenance window. Last but not least, we delivered multiple major enhancements in the BenefitsCal homepage announcements in August this summer. Redesigned the homepage and the announcement section. We created journeys for users based on their goals and the needs, and allowing them to get access to urgent and time-sensitive announcements faster and easier in BenefitsCal. Next slide, please. Kind of a continuation to the action item in the last JPA meeting. We took an action item on a scenario if a customer experiences a challenge while using the BenefitsCal and requires assistance, and what are the support channels available for customers to get help, as well as what are the foundational testing processes to not only confirm what system is working, whether the system is working as expected or not, but also if an incident is identified. So I will briefly provide an overview, and the first part of the action item is the support channels. And we categorize the support channels into two, like self-serve versus the assisted support. And if a customer experiences a challenge and has an outstanding question, there is plenty of resources available online for customers to guide them and answer the questions they may have, including the YouTube channel has over 18 videos available online demonstrating how to use this system functions, covering most critical areas. And these videos are recently refreshed to reflect the recent enhancements too. In addition to that, there is 23 quick reference guides available for customers, and there is also plenty of help content available under the BenefitsCal under Help Center, with frequently asked questions, learning tools, and how-to videos. And more importantly, now there is a global search feature available for users starting this July, which allows users to perform a keyword search to access to help content much faster. But another channel obviously available for customers if they need help is assisted support. If the user wants to get assistance from a real person, they can find a local county office location and contact information. They can reach out to them by phone, as well as use call me or chat me features if it is available for their counties. And lastly, obviously, customers can always submit an inquiry through the Ask CalSOS channel as well. So this was kind of the first part of the action item. If you can move on to the next slide, please.
So owner, quickly on that, and I know that Kristen came on camera on that, and this was sort of a real big flyby. So as customers engage on Benefits Cal and they're going through this, one, how intuitive is the functionality path? And two, if they do run into issues, whether it's something with CalSOS or it's something with an email or something else like that, where are they guided to be able to assist in? So we wanted to give an overview of this and also look at sort of what our support mechanism is. Kristen, I know that we usually have meetings with LA County every couple of weeks. We could walk through this and sort of unpack this on that and look at the testing and support processes associated with that to make sure that we're sort of hitting the nail on the head of what the action item you brought up was and maybe the scenario, and we'll make sure that the team reaches out to you, and if we need to, we'll circle back with the JPA because we know that these are pretty dense slides to be able to walk through so quickly on a Friday afternoon. Go ahead, owner.
Sure. John, shall I skip this slide or still kind of provide a high-level overview?
Well, let's just give it an overview, and then we'll see if there's questions. I think people probably need to spend a little bit of time with these slides, and I think more importantly, as we work with our advocate and public stakeholders, do our stakeholders understand this support model? And is there ways that we can support this model to make it more intuitive and help being guided through the process? We brought it up, confirmed with Rachel that we are going, from Michael's question, we are going to be focusing on those, big three areas: document upload, account linking, and account creation as we go through that. That should help the user journey, but are there other places we can do? But I think this support model and looking at this journey and working with our collaboration model, our stakeholders, and coming back to the JPA on this, I think this is an overview of the as-is and what's there, but it still probably needs to be honed a little bit and become more intuitive, and there's some work that needs to be done on that.
And shared a little bit about the future release for the chat, which is going to extend into additional FAQs. So that will be another avenue that individuals will have available to them for support that will add to that.
Very good. And I know that the counties, JPA, have been asking for this. Our stakeholders, our advocates have been asking for this. This is information we've been getting through our technical help desk. So I think all of the data is sort of showing that there needs to be more of a concerted effort on these items as we go.
Thank you, John. And just a quick overview on the slide for the foundational testing processes. As John mentioned, it is important, starting from the design, how intuitive the system is, as well as what are the various types of validation activities performed to verify the quality and the usability of the application. This slide kind of provides an overview of those steps. I know it's kind of an intense or dense process flow, but to keep it on the high level, everything starts with the usability, and usability testing is designed based on the user scenarios that customer is willing to accomplish. And our UCD team conducts multiple rounds of usability testing with the end users and stakeholders to confirm how intuitive, how user-friendly the system design is, and whether it meets the scenario of the customers from usability expectation standpoint. And when it goes to the rest of the flow, obviously once the functionality is built, it is validated through the unit testing, dev integration testing phases. Multiple testing is occurred during the system integration test to make sure the functionality is meeting the design. It includes we check against the multiple browser types, devices, accessibility, and multi-language too. And following all these, there is a validation happens at the by the QA team, and consortium counties performs the county validation, as well as the stakeholder validation happens. And that is an important phase. And then obviously security and the performance are also two critical areas that we check the application, that we simulate real world application usage and to scale the system with various type of tests.
So owner, let's wrap there and just make sure that the board members and public can spend a little bit more time with these slides, knowing that this is going to be an area of focus of the user journey and the support model around that. And Emil, I know that you're working on this also from the QA standpoint, so appreciate that. And we're going to have some specific conversations with LA, as we know that it's coming up with them, and we'll loop it back to let people know what we're doing on the specific user journeys to improve that. Emil, was there anything specifically that you wanted to bring up before we move on to this next topic?
No, I think we covered it well. Thank you, John.
Okay. Thank you, Emil. All right. Go ahead, Rachel. You're going to talk about?
Yeah, I can talk really quick about the marketing. Owner had mentioned that in the month of September, we initiated a marketing campaign that had been established by a group of stakeholders in terms of areas that we wanted to drive adoption in Benefits Cal. And there were there was a vast group that had been involved, and what the group had decided that they would like to do is make sure that we had updated materials, and that's in the form of trifolds, including QR codes that people could get on their phones and get access to information very quickly, or very quickly get access to Benefits Cal. We added new posters. We saw in people's offices when we went out to went to 3 counties for Cal, and they were using business cards that people would hand out, went into the lobby offices that would help them know how to get access to MyCW. And so the team had also developed a set of promo cards, had updated a video. We received some feedback from the counties about pace of the language in there, that we need to make sure that we were slowing it down a little bit as the person was talking and moving very quickly. And we provided additional email communications that are what we call call to actions, that are intended to have people take specific actions and benefits. Or anything to add there, sir? From you.
No, I think you covered it, Rachel. Thank you.
Perfect. We can move to the next slide. This is an example of some of the material that we produced. We also had it available in our threshold languages as well, so all 19 are available that the counties can take, and you can use the content and you can customize it on your own within your counties. But it's something that you can use as the basis for tailoring whatever you would like to do. We can move to the next slide, please. I had mentioned that there is a video, much like all of our Benefits Cal videos, they are on YouTube. So to date, we have actually seen in a week a little bit more than a couple hundred people that are looking at the video so far. But it's something that we're going to continue to report on and see how people are getting access to the information about Benefits Cal. The intent of it is really to help people understand the full suite of features, because we were recognizing they weren't using everything in Benefits Cal. They were applying, they're uploading documents, but they weren't necessarily coming back and doing their ongoing case-related activities. We can move to the next slide.
Did you want to play?
I think we can.
We could skip the video.
I think we can skip the video. Yeah. In the interest of time. And then I think the next slide actually had our metrics in terms of what we had actually seen. We could go to the next one. So we had shared, I think it was in May at the board meeting, that industry standard is 2.8% is what we like to see in terms of what we call a click-through rate. That is, once we send out a communication to someone, if they open it and then they actually take action by clicking on the link in the email, 2.8% is industry standard. Across our 6 campaigns, we saw between 9 and 15% click-through rates. So we are well above what we would see in terms of industry standard. If you look at where we are in terms of open rates, the open rates are pretty compelling. It's north of 50% across the board for every campaign that we send out. One thing that is important to note is the campaigns that we did this time around were only email. That was based off of the stakeholder feedback. We would like to see in future campaigns to add text because we know a lot of people just like to access things from a text message. But this was purely an email campaign, but we had a really good response on the open rate so far with only a week under our belt, but it's something that we're going to continue to report on in terms of the marketing campaign.
Yeah, Rachel, if you don't mind, this is Lynn. Yeah, just wanted to add that all of these email campaigns, they were not sent to every single person every single time. We had extra logic to control it so that people were not bombarded with all 6 of these campaigns. So that it was very selective.
We
Thank you,
also had
Lynn.
received feedback because I know the counties had said, please don't duplicate or overlap what we are doing in the county. So as part of the work group, we did ask for feedback in terms of what the counties were doing so that people weren't getting bombarded by Benefits Cal and then also by this.
Rachel, maybe one more thing to add, statistics standpoint, the government standards for the email open rate is also 19%. So our like above 50% open rate is pretty above that. So.
All right, next slide. And I think, Michael, that wraps up the Benefits Cal section.
Okay, great. And I'm going to go ahead and go quickly into any comments or questions from our board members or our state partners on the presentation.
Just a quick question. Rachel, I noticed there was a QR code on the trifold. Has there been any thought to adding something like that to the client correspondence? So someone gets the renewal, be able to kind of
We haven't had that discussion at this time, but that's something we can take back and.
So we'll take that as an action item, the research feasibility of QR code for. Yep. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from our board member state partners?
I'll be quick. I know we're short on time, but just attending the same conference that Michael had attended just recently, just got a lot of ideas and thoughts. And 2 things. One, I think we also need to make sure we're mindful of our communication in the sense of using it to maximize customer touch, and that there's a lot of fraud out there, and so that we remind our customers that why we are communicating with them and what we will and won't communicate and things of that nature. So I think that might be a good opportunity to use from that standpoint as well, so that, you know, where we can hold those kinds of in our marketing campaigns about those positive areas that we can try to touch in that sense. And the other area is, you know, I saw this one presentation that was really it's like a prime example. It looked very similar to like my bank, like how we have EBT transactions, we have balances, we have statuses, and I was watching the one slide that Onar was presenting on, where it seemed like there was just like a lot of information about like what my reports do. If that is really upfront, personal, and like dashboard to me as a customer, I think that might really help with customer service, with call center, with lobby visits. You know, so I really think we need to make sure that that is resonating with our customers, and so our customers are actually going there instead of in office or onto the phone to get that information if it's truly available in Benefits Cal, and we make it appealing to them in Benefits Cal.
Gilbert, I think that's a really important point, and I think we should probably take a bit of an action item on sort of the concept that you've just sort of talked about, and I think that might be something for our January conference to start looking at what could be, because I think it's going to have to be a concerted effort, and those things might not bubble up from our committees. Those might have to be more of a strategic investment that we do in those types of things. So maybe at least there could be a conversation on, as we get into M&E in the future, and we're looking at not revamping our systems, but revamping our customer experience and those types of things, what can that possibly look like? And then administratively, what do we need to do to sort of make that happen behind the scenes? That might not be up front, but at least we can start talking about what may be possible, because those are the things that I think we need to do as we get into M&E with 58 counties and the customer experience and more things being online. So let us take that and see if that is something where we could have a more strategic discussion at our conference in January. Rachel, you good with that?
Yeah, I think, John, also, just as a recurring practice, we should be bringing back the customer experience feedback that we're getting. We share that out in our monthly UCD meeting. We share it out in other forums, but I think it's going to be important to bring it back here in terms of what we're hearing, what we're seeing, and how this is actually functioning. So we'll bring that back here too.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like where that's headed. Thanks, Gilbert. Great suggestion. I think that's something we can ideate around from all our perspectives. I also would like to park something with you guys as well, as we go into the January conference, as we start to really look at innovating on Benefits Cal, is to take a look at the functionality that we have that at the end only results in creating a task for a worker, and really reassessing those for where the value add is. Because like Gilbert said, if we can produce and do things within Benefits Cal that can help people not come to the office, but also not have it just drop in a queue for a worker, that it might have better automated thought in it. I think that's the next kind of phase of where we need to go as well. And the whole conference and APHSA was all about AI and how we can incorporate those things. But it really is getting the innovative juices going. So any other comments or questions from our board members or our state partners? Any public comments? Okay, hearing none. In the interest of time, John, I think we were going to move past 12 and maybe bring that one up next time, or?
Yeah, let me give just a quick overview. Just go to the next slide real quick, Jen. Our customer engagement team has been putting together an initiative to engage with the counties. So listen, examine, act, and partner. This is to gather information and see what we need to be doing as we head into M&E, as there's 58 counties going in. What are we hearing from the counties? Not what we're thinking from the project, to be able to do that. Our regional managers with our project team is going to start doing some listening sessions. Of course, we're going to start with Region 3, our northern region. That's Ben and Cal saws for a long period of time. We're going to be going to LA County and Region 6, and just starting that listening tour, and then going region by region to be able to do that. And we're going to be reviewing, assessing the county feedback, and say what are next steps, and start doing that fairly publicly. The team also is going to be talking about, there's a session at the CWDA conference where this will be mentioned, and we're going to be hopefully getting some information and bringing this forward to our January conference. So as you go through these slides, Peggy was going to do that. This is fairly high level, but we're going to start this initiative. We're going to start examining these things, going through these steps. We'll probably be going into more detail at our project steering committee on that, but we wanted to at least mention that, and you'll be hearing more about that. Okay, so I think, Michael, with that, we could skip over this and know that it is going to come back, and we're going to be starting the listening tours very quickly.
I appreciate that. And we'll go ahead and move on to item 13, which is decommissioning environment. Oh, wait a minute. Contact call center? Did I get out of order on my list?
I think we have decommissioning environments first, and Jeremy is going to come up on that.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and cover that real fast.
Very good. Thanks, Arnold.
Just from that perspective, we have, as we're ramping down the conversion process, we are going to start decommissioning two environments. One is Sandbox, and one is called UAT2. Those were both set up for the counties to work with be able to be in preparation for the conversion process. Where the targeted decommission date is end of October, so complete after completion of Wave 6. UAT two is covered in CIT 0314-23, and that was sent on August 23rd. The sandbox CIT is 0285-23, sent on August 3rd. So if there's any questions about that or concerns, respond back to the project.
And if any of our counties have gotten attached to the sandbox environment, there is a CalSA sandbox environment called PRT, Policy Review and Training. That is sort of like a sandbox environment. We don't need that anymore. There is already one as part of CalSA's. There's no use having that redundancy. All right, contact center, welcome bot and authentication bot.
Okay, hey there, everyone. Good afternoon. So starting with Welcome Bot. I know there was an item stemming from the last JPA around this particular functionality, but first I just wanted to quickly highlight some of the metrics that we've seen since bringing counties onto the Welcome Bot solution. So 62% of the time, the Welcome Bot is prompting a customer to the correct queue or menu. And more importantly, over 25% of the time, when we send a customer a push notification to their device with self-service information, they're ending their call, which indicates they received the information that they needed. So the more that we can increase the ability for customers to get the information that they need without speaking to an agent, the more time an agent can, have more dedicated time to higher touch engagements with a customer. So just wanted to quickly point out some metrics before notating that we have received some direct feedback on some of the welcome bot prompts for some counties, and how in some instances utterances from customers were leading those customers to certain queues, which cause a little bit of a backup. And so in those instances, over the last month or so, we have worked directly with those counties to modify routing to eliminate any sort of backlog of queues. And in both instances that we got mentioned here, we work very closely with the counties to remediate those issues. So we will continue to take in any feedback that we receive from counties if they do experience issues like this. We'll make modifications to, those individual counties' call flows so that we can make things, operate as efficiently as possible for customers as they dial in and use the Welcome Bot. Last thing that I would mention here is just kind of a PSA is I would encourage every county to reach out if they do experience any issues with Welcome Bot. As heard from their customers, to just work with the RMs. That's something that we did, over the last month or so, and it worked quite well in terms of an operating model for this. So, again, if any issues do pop up, please share them with the RMs, and we'll work closely with them. So that's on Welcome Bot. I did want to give
Jimmy,
Yep.
Real quick on that. I appreciate you bringing this up. And again, context is. This is something that came up at one of our other board meetings, saying that people were experiencing like some call loops or something else like that with the Welcome Bot. Once we heard about that, it wasn't really specific to that. It was sort of the call flow, but we could unpack that. So if anything ever comes to you as a director, your deputy director or something like that, is there a ticket? Have you contacted the project? If not, just let us know. We want to unpack that. We do not want anybody to get caught into any type of flow pattern that is not optimal. And if you want to revisit that, we will make sure that we get our team to re-examine that. So, we're thankful it came up at the JPA meeting, and we can sit there and reach out to those specific counties. But let's start engaging our RMs and have people put in tickets and stuff like that so we can hop on these things quicker.
Thanks, John, if you don't mind, I think we should also reach out to our partners at AWS and talk to them about any tools they have that could maybe preempt and alert us as a project to when there might be inefficient call flow loops within the system.
Yep, absolutely. We can make sure that AWS is in the loop on these things, and especially as we're going through and validating them with the counties.
Yeah.
All right, Jimmy, back to you.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, John. So just real quick, an update on authentication bot. So we do continue to see the auth bot significantly helping in terms of enabling customers to successfully authenticate, and I've gotten a ton of positive feedback from the counties that have rolled on to the solution. I just wanted to call out in one instance, we have seen authentication rates in one county more than quadruple which is just fantastic. I would echo the same, just as my last point here, I would echo the same thing that John mentioned and kind of what we were mentioning before on Welcome Bot. If there are any issues that do pop up, again, we haven't heard any around Authbot, but if there are, please do, submit incident tickets, work with the RMs, we'll coordinate directly with them, to make any modifications as necessary within the call flows for each one of the counties. But overall, just as it relates to Authbot, all has been quite positive and trending well.
And again, just for context for folks, these things can save your customer service center workers 30 seconds to a minute on every single one on having to authorize it. If it's popping in their headset, it's popping the screen, they're authorized. That's the work that they don't have to do, and they're right into the call. So hopefully we can get these percentages up and use that. And saving a minute a call is fairly significant at the volume of the calls that you guys have that are coming in. So we're going to keep looking at this, hone these things. As Jimmy said, if you're finding any issues or concerns or something else like that, reach out to us, and they do take a little bit of tweaking and working together to be able to make sure that we're using them to the optimal way. All right, Jimmy, next slide.
That was it for us. That was it for Contact Center.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Back to you, Michael.
Okay, great. Thanks for bringing that one back. Any questions or comments from our board members or state partners? Any public comment? Okay, we can move right into procurement updates. Thank you.
Okay, the M&O procurement is moving along swimmingly. We're in the last phases of having the evaluators look at the best and final offer number 1 responses from our various vendors, and all the scheduled dates are correct still, and we're very happy so far. Next slide. We're also doing the requirements honing on the benefits gallery procurement and moving along on that schedule. No changes, and moving along quite nicely. Back to you, Michael.
Hey, Tom, just for a second, because I know we're back on schedule. Going back one slide. So we know that Tom puts this out for that, and the procurement team is working really, really hard to be able to track through that. There's significant conversations, best and final offers that's been happening with the vendor community, the teams evaluating those, the evaluation teams looking at that. As we look at that, row 22, issue of the intent to award is February 8th. So that's really a critical time where we're saying, okay, everything's sort of racked and stacked. We've done our evaluations. This is the organization or organizations that we think will win that, and that's when that letter will be issued, is that first part of February. So those are very important dates that team is working very diligently for. Also, the vendor community is working diligently for and responding to those items. All of those things go into contract negotiations that the team will lead, which will then also go to state, federal, and ultimately JPA contract review and approval for this. So there's some contingency period, and then the contract start date is August 1st of 2024. So there's a significant amount going on even after we get all the counties on board associated with our contracts and our contract relations. And then the next slide that Tom mentioned was also looking at the same thing that we have to do for Benefits Cal. What is our M&E strategy and those types of things, and you can see the dates that Tom and team have outlined there, and they're in the midst of preparing that RFP.
Thanks for explaining those dates. I think it was really important for everybody to see that. So is there going to be an operation period where we'd be potentially moved over to a new vendor for maintenance and application support, but yet still have Benefits Cal being in a procurement process, or no?
Yeah, because their timing doesn't match up. There are transition periods for both the M&E and the infrastructure part of the M&O procurement, and those overlap with, they're staggered with the benefits cal procurement and evaluation, and then ultimately transition.
So we'll have sort of different time frames for each of those. Okay.
Great.
All right. Any questions, comments from our state partners or our board members on the procurement update? All right, lots more to come, and you saw those dates. Those are all things we'll be tracking in these meetings going forward. So, Godspeed on that one. And I think that takes us into our QA and then IB&B after that, right?
Thank you very much. This is Wendy Batterman. I'll be doing the QA today. I'll be very quick to know you about really fun. So just at a very high level, to look at across the top for our functional highlights. Cal 2309 and Cal 2304, actually 09, are both on track and ready to go for their releases later this month.
Just so you know, I can barely hear you.
Move the mic over, please.
Is that better, Michael? Is that better?
You're on mute, Michael.
Yeah, now you can't hear me. No, much better. Thank you.
Can you hear me now, Michael? We'll go with that.
Okay. It's good.
All right. Our team has also been involved, we've already been integrated into our CFAP, FSED, wood chip, and ROI design sessions. There's planning design sessions going on, and they're all at different stages right now, but they're progressing well. Going down to technical reviews quickly, you can see by the numbers, we've had a lot of reviews across the board looking at service level agreements across CalSAWS, Imaging, OCAP, Benefits Cal. We've been looking at all the updates for the M&O annual plan as well as the system security plans for each contract partner. And those are kept just to make sure we stay current. We've also reviewed and confirmed the root causes for 7 different RCAs, and also looked at technical updates, 46 of those across CalSAWS architecture, security, batch, Benefits Cal, Imaging, Contact Center, virtual systems, and bots. Moving down to the migration reviews. So it's, we mentioned with Richard and team went through the Wave 4 retro. We do those for every wave, of course, and we do at least 10 retro sessions with each of our project teams. So we'll be continuing that with Waves 5 and 6. We also have our implementation support staff and other folks out in the counties. So just a couple of things for feedback there. We've really been noticing the staff in all the Wave 5 counties are starting to become more comfortable with the system. The lobbies are starting to flow just a bit more normally, and that staff are becoming a little more self-sufficient with the self-service help. Our team's also been providing some mini trainings as necessary to keep people moving. And then a couple things we want to keep an eye on are the communications, just to make sure that the counties are distributing the communications. We can't stress the importance of that enough, so that it not just comes from the project down, but from the county to the workers. And also, we're keeping a really close eye on the end-of-month reporting, so that anything that is coming out of conversion, and also reports team, that we're making sure that the right people come together very quickly, so to support the counties in any questions they might have. And finally, on this row, we've wrapped up county data validation for Wave 6. So that was completed on August 14th through the 25th, and also for the fraud and ancillary on August 24th through 29th. We will be conducting a retro on September 28th, and basically, even though we don't have another CDV, we'll be making sure that we take those lessons learned into everything else that we're doing forward. That wraps it up for me, Michael. Any questions for us?
On to our next slide. Oh, that was it for QA? Okay, Mike, back to you.
Thanks, Wendy. Any comments, questions from our state partners or our board members on the IB&B, on the QA app? All right, any public comment? Okay, we'll move on to IB&B. Thank you very much, Wendy.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Apurva, and I'll be providing you with the key IB&B updates for the project oversight we continue to perform on the following work streams. On the first one, CalSAWS and Benefits Cal releases have been running smoothly. We have observed great collaboration and progress among multiple UCD efforts, including design sessions, as well as the ROI policy discussions. All systems and batch processes have been performing well with increased data volumes. Under data conversion, the 5P conversion event completed successfully. I would like to call out that there was an issue identified, but as soon as it was identified, all teams were very well prepared to handle the situation. The fix was deployed and validated quickly. The plan to execute the data transformation step again was executed very smoothly. Having said that, as discussed in the earlier part of the presentation, there have been few lessons learned from Wave 5, and our team is collaborating with Accenture and ClearBest team to ensure that all the checks and balances are in place for Wave 6. There were a number of conversion defects targeted for the first 10 days of Wave 5 go live, and they are all on target to complete by the end of this week. The planning and resolution for issues targeting for Wave 6 are also going very well. Lastly, on the implementation front, wave after wave, the readiness as well as the post-implementation phase is just getting better. Wave 5 post-implementation has been smooth in the past 2 weeks with no major concerns in our observation. And now with that, our focus is shifting to the readiness for the last and final Wave 6. So far, things are looking good. Validation efforts are nearing completion. The tracking of implementation checklist items is going well via the TOS and IPOC meetings. We are observing the state and fiscal session meetings to be going very well. And the county sharing program via the TAC meeting as well as independently is also going really well. That's my update from my IVNB team. Any questions for me?
Thanks, Apoorva. Any comments or questions from our board members or our state partners on this presentation from IVNB? Okay, hearing none. Any public comment? Okay, hearing none. I have a question back to QA and IVNB, just on the process for getting ready for Wave 6. Revisiting Wave 5 and the issue we had there and the revisiting of the checklist and everything. I just wanted to know what role QA and IVNB are playing and also double checking all the readiness components and any remedies that were put in place on what we ran into in Wave 5.
So this is Wendy for QA. As Rachel had walked through earlier, we are actually, we do all the tier checks all the way through for the conversion issue, and we're making sure we're actually doing that over-the-shoulder validation as well to make sure that we are, everything, not only what we're already doing to make sure that everything is checked off along the way, but we're going to do that over the shoulder and in production validation to make sure it's all ticked and tied, in addition to everything we're already doing to make sure it goes smoothly.
Thank you, Wendy. Apoorva?
So from the IVNB side, Michael, we are participating in all the stage gate meetings, and our team is collaborating with the QA team to see how much validation effort we can oversee from the over-the-shoulder testing. We have not been involved in the over-the-shoulder testing as of now, but we will be involved. We will try to get involved as much as possible and try to see how much we can do from the assessment of the pre-validation checklist.
All right, thank you guys very much. Okay, we ended up finishing up early. This is great. I do want to welcome and thank our newest board member, Paula Yanis from Imperial County in Region 5. Thank you for joining us for this adventure we're all on. And then our next meeting is scheduled for Friday, October 20th at 9 a.m. I'm going to double check that back with John's team. Did I get it right?
Yep, you did.
All right, so we're shifting back to the morning again, so everybody set your alarms. John, do you have any parting thoughts?
Nope, we'll be on the eve of Wave 6 by that time. We know that there's no CWDA meetings in October, so we'll have our CalSAWS meeting and keep it efficient, but we are on the verge of meeting our goal and meeting it on time, so we look forward to doing that. So thanks, Michael.
All right, keep it up, everybody. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fridays.